What if I told you that most successful entrepreneurs failed? Not once, not twice, but repeatedly, before they ever built something that lasted. That's not a motivational cliché. That's the actual pattern researchers found when they studied entrepreneurial careers over decades. And today, we're going to break down exactly how that journey works, what pathways are available to you, and why understanding this could completely change how you think about starting something of your own. By the end of this video, you'll understand what the entrepreneurial journey actually looks like, the different pathways people take to become entrepreneurs, how experience and failure shape success, what kind of mindset separates people who keep going from people who quit, and how to figure out which path might be right for you. Let's get into it. Section 1. What the entrepreneurial journey actually looks like. Most people picture entrepreneurship as a straight line. You get an idea, you build a product, you launch, you succeed. But research tells a very different story. The entrepreneurial journey is almost never linear. It's cyclical, messy, and full of pivots. Think of it less like a highway and more like a hiking trail. There are switchbacks. There are moments where the trail disappears, and you have to figure out the next step on your own. And sometimes you realize you've been heading in the wrong direction, and you have to loop back. Scholars describe this journey as having recognizable phases: opportunity recognition, resource gathering, launch, growth, and then either continued scaling, exit, or sometimes failure and restart. The important thing is that these phases aren't always clean. Entrepreneurs often jump back and forth between them. You might be in growth mode and then realize you need to go back and reassess the original opportunity. What makes this journey particularly fascinating is how personal it is. Two people can start with nearly identical ideas and end up on completely different paths based on their choices, their networks, their timing, and honestly, a fair amount of luck. But here's what researchers consistently find. The people who stay on the journey long enough dramatically improve their odds of eventual success. So what are the different ways people actually enter that journey? That's next. Section 2. The pathways into entrepreneurship. There isn't one single door into entrepreneurship. There are several. And knowing which one you're walking through matters because it shapes your strategy, your risks, and your expectations. The first pathway is what researchers call the classic startup route. This is someone who identifies a problem, builds a solution, and tries to create a new company from scratch. This is what most people think of when they hear the word entrepreneur: high risk, high potential reward, and a steep learning curve. The second pathway is corporate entrepreneurship, sometimes called intrapreneurship. This is when someone innovates within an existing organization. They're not building their own company. They're creating new products, divisions, or processes inside a company that already exists. This pathway carries less personal financial risk but often comes with different kinds of frustration, like navigating bureaucracy and internal politics. The third pathway is acquisition entrepreneurship. Instead of building something from scratch, some entrepreneurs buy an existing business. They take something that already works and try to make it better. This is more common than people realize, and it can be a smart entry point because the hard work of proving the concept has already been done. The fourth pathway is social entrepreneurship, building ventures designed primarily to create social or environmental impact rather than profit. These entrepreneurs are solving problems that markets have ignored or that governments haven't been able to fix. And the fifth is serial entrepreneurship, people who start one business, exit it whether through success or failure, and then start another and another. These folks treat entrepreneurship less like a destination and more like a way of life. Here's the thing though. Most people don't consciously choose their pathway. They fall into one based on circumstances. But what if you could be intentional about it? What would that change? We'll circle back to that. First, let's talk about something that most entrepreneurs don't want to admit, but that research says is actually essential. Section 3. The role of failure and experience. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Experience, including the experience of failing, is one of the most reliable predictors of entrepreneurial success. Not education, not funding, not even the quality of the initial idea. Studies show that entrepreneurs who have previously failed are more likely to succeed on their next venture than first-timers, with no track record at all. Why? Because failure teaches things that no classroom can. It teaches you where your blind spots are. It teaches you how to read customers more honestly. It teaches you how to make decisions under uncertainty. But here's what's interesting. It's not just any failure. It's failure that you actually learn from. Entrepreneurs who fail and never analyze why tend to repeat the same mistakes. The ones who treat failure like data, who ask hard questions about what went wrong and why, those are the ones who come back stronger. Experience works the same way. Entrepreneurs who worked in an industry before starting a company in that industry significantly outperform those jumping in cold. That industry knowledge helps you spot real opportunities versus imagined ones, and it gives you credibility when you're trying to bring others along for the ride. So what does all this require on the inside? What kind of thinking patterns support this kind of resilience? Let's talk about mindset. Section 4. The entrepreneurial mindset. Mindset isn't a soft concept. In entrepreneurship research, it's treated as a serious variable that predicts behavior and outcomes. The entrepreneurial mindset is a specific way of seeing the world, and it can be developed. At the core of the entrepreneurial mindset is something called opportunity alertness. This is the tendency to notice problems and gaps that others walk right past. Entrepreneurs don't just see a broken system, they automatically start asking what a solution might look like. Connected to that is tolerance for ambiguity. Entrepreneurship means making decisions without complete information, living with uncertainty, and being okay with not having all the answers. People who need certainty before acting struggle enormously in entrepreneurial environments. There's also a strong internal locus of control, the belief that your actions actually affect outcomes. Entrepreneurs tend to believe that what they do matters, that they're not just passengers in their own story. And finally, there's what researchers call effectual thinking, the ability to look at what you already have and ask what you can build with it, rather than starting from a fixed goal and working backward. It's creative, adaptive thinking that treats constraints as starting points rather than roadblocks. The good news? All of these can be strengthened with practice and intention. Which brings us to the most personal question of all. Section 5. Finding your own pathway. So how do you actually figure out which entrepreneurial pathway is right for you? Researchers suggest starting with 3 honest questions. What do I know deeply? What do I care about enough to keep going when things get hard? And what resources, people, and experiences can I realistically access right now? Your answers to those questions point toward your entry point. Someone with deep corporate experience and financial stability might find acquisition, entrepreneurship, or entrepreneurship a natural fit. Someone with a burning social mission might be pulled towards social entrepreneurship. Someone with nothing but an idea and relentless energy might be wired for the classic startup grind. The journey isn't one size fits all, and the research is clear that there's no single best pathway, only the one that aligns with your skills, your goals, and your circumstances right now. And those things change, which means your pathway can evolve too. The entrepreneurial journey is long, it's uncertain, and it's genuinely one of the most challenging things a person can choose to take on. But understanding the terrain before you walk it, knowing what phases you'll move through, what pathways exist, how failure and experience shape you, what mindset you need, and how to find your own entry point, that changes everything. If this gave you a new way to think about entrepreneurship, hit the like button. It helps more people find this content. Subscribe if you want more videos breaking down real business and entrepreneurship concepts in plain language. And drop a comment below. Tell me which pathway resonates most with you right now, or ask a question you're wrestling with. I read every single one. See you in the next video.